Tonight, the search for truth. The mother of a girl who died after contracting an infection at Glasgow's flagship hospital believes the Scottish Government still has questions to answer.
This journey has been utterly heartbreaking for myself and Millie's family. The only thing I can be sure of today is that Millie would not want me to give up until the truth is uncovered, and I will not.
Also making the headlines, the Scottish Government faces legal action for failing to hand over files about an inquiry into Nicola Sturgeon. Veterans call on President Trump to apologise for saying NATO's soldiers avoided the Afghanistan front line. And in sport, we look ahead to this weekend's top-of-the-table Premiership clash as Hearts take on Celtic at Tynecastle. I'm John Mackay. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. The mother of a 10-year-old girl who died after contracting an infection at Glasgow's flagship hospital believes she's closer to the truth after an inquiry. But she's also urging NHS bosses and the Scottish Government to admit where, when and why it went wrong. On the final day of hearings, the Health Board was told its delayed acceptance of infection problems was willful blindness, which severely impacted the work of the inquiry. Here's our chief reporter, Sharon Frew.
A mother's plea minutes after the final evidence session of the public inquiry.
Please finally do the right thing, admit where, when and why it went wrong, whilst being completely transparent, and own it.
Kimberly Darragh believes she is closer to the truth today than she was 6 years ago, but she still feels she only has half the story.
This journey has been utterly heartbreaking for myself and Millie's family. The only thing I can be sure of today is that Millie would not want me to give up until the truth is uncovered, and I will not. And to the Scottish Government, I expected more from you. Your inactions have failed us and our children.
Kimberly's daughter Millie died after contracting an infection during cancer treatment. The 10-year-old's death in 2017 was one of the catalysts for the public inquiry into the construction and design of the Queen Elizabeth University Hospital and the Royal Hospital for Children, which are on the same campus. After NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde's initial denials, Millie's mum said she was at first shocked when she was told officials now accepted that some of the infections were probably linked to the hospital's water system. Earlier, senior counsel told Lord Brodie this delayed acceptance had made the task of the inquiry more difficult. NHS Greater Glasgow and Clyde's closing submission to the inquiry also revealed pressure had been applied to ensure the hospital campus opened on time in 2015. The First Minister has denied that this pressure came from the SNP government. Opposition parties continue to demand answers.
This was a landmark moment for Scotland with the opening of this hospital. And I'm just not willing to believe that no government minister asked the question, is everything safe and is everything validated and certified?
The NHS board has apologised to patients, families and staff and maintains both hospitals are now safe. Families of adult patients who died from infections disagree and say the board continues to gamble with these patients' lives by only upgrading the ventilation system in the children's ward and not the adult hospital.
Regardless of age, everybody is entitled to be safe when they go in to receive treatment. Things may happen, the inevitable may happen and treatments may fail, but we don't need anything extra added on to the burden.
The 3 doctors who blew the whistle on these issues also continue to have concerns about the management of the hospital.
I'll be going into work on Monday and I am still facing the question, if I see something that I think is wrong and that I as a professional have concerns about, what am I going to do? Who do I go to? And I'm really sorry to tell you, I don't know. I don't feel that I have the confidence, definitely not internally, and externally not either.
Total costs for this inquiry have reached more than £31 million. 186 witnesses have given evidence. There is no deadline for Lord Brodie's report. It's anticipated it could be the end of the year before any recommendations are made. Those affected by the scandal believe action should be taken now. Sharon Frew, STV News.
The Scottish Government is facing legal action over its failure to hand over documents relating to an inquiry into the former First Minister Nicola Sturgeon. The Information Commissioner has begun proceedings after ministers missed deadlines to produce correspondence for an investigation which saw Ms Sturgeon cleared of breaching the ministerial code. Well, our political correspondent Ewan Petrie joins us now. Ewan, how significant is this action?
Well, this is the first time that the Information Commissioner has taken legal action, and it could see the Scottish Government held in contempt of court. Now, it all relates to an inquiry by James Hamilton into potential breaches of the ministerial code by Nicola Sturgeon during the investigation of her predecessor, Alex Salmond. It's almost 5 years now since she was cleared. Now, the Commissioner had told the Scottish Government that it must release documents from that inquiry by the 15th of January, following a long-running freedom of information battle. That deadline came and went. Another was set for yesterday. It too was missed. And that's how we've landed on this spot of legal action being launched today.
Why has there been a delay to the documents being handed over?
Well, John Swinney has told MSPs that the documents will be released as soon as possible, but he says it's far from straightforward. Now, he claims that some of the material could lead to the identification of complainers in the criminal trial against Alex Salmond. He was cleared of sexual offences back in 2020, and the complainers in that trial were given lifelong anonymity. Now, opposition parties say this all points to a culture of secrecy within the Scottish Government. They're demanding to know exactly when these documents will see the light of day.
Ewan, thank you. The mother of a Black Watch soldier killed in Afghanistan says she's disgusted by the comments of Donald Trump over the involvement of NATO troops in the conflict. The US president claimed NATO's soldiers avoided the front line during the so-called war on terror following the 9/11 attacks. The First Minister, John Swinney, has described the statement as deeply insulting. Gráinne Nagrechan reports.
Jeanette Benny from Aberdeenshire is still haunted by the events of May 2009. Her 22-year-old son Sean was killed while serving with the Black Watch in Helmand province in Afghanistan. Jeanette says the comments of Donald Trump are a disgrace.
I mean, I'm 16 years down the line, and have I learnt how to live and how to be human again? Of course I have. Is there days that I miss Sean? Is there days that I crumble? Of course there is. But this man's took it right to the forefront that basically what he said is that every veteran, every soldier, that they're nothing. And I'm sorry, but my son was worth a lot more than that.
Sean's body was returned to the UK draped in Union flag. He was one of 457 British lives lost during the conflict. Hundreds more bear both the physical and mental scars of frontline action. NATO troops were sent to the region in support of the US following the 9/11 attacks.
We've never needed them. They'll say they sent some troops to Afghanistan or this or that. And they did. They stayed a little off the front lines.
So he's got no knowledge of the sacrifice, of the humanity, of the comradeship, of anything that the boys are that. It's a second family, and he has not got a clue, that man. There's boys that are still in touch with boys for the American forces who they built a trust and a brothership up with and worked with them. So if they didn't work with them, how could they know of being on the front line? Of course they were on the front line.
Trump's remarks have drawn widespread condemnation from both veterans and politicians.
So I consider President Trump's remarks to be insulting and frankly appalling. And I'm not surprised they've caused such hurt to the loved ones of those who were killed or injured, and in fact, across the country.
At this veterans' breakfast, there was outrage at the disrespect.
It's absolutely shocking. The guys have fought for the country. They've lost legs, they've been blown up. Afghan, Iraq.
That man with his bone spurs that never existed, so they didn't have to serve in the forces at all. The man's, I'd have to swear to say what I thought about him.
They paid the ultimate sacrifice, never to come home, but never to be forgotten. Gráinne Nagrechan, STV News.
Water bills are to rise by 8.7% in April, an average increase of £42 a year for households. It takes the average bill in Scotland to £532, which remains among the lowest cost in the UK. Scottish Water, which is publicly owned, says the extra money will allow it to maintain essential services and to upgrade infrastructure. The Justice Reform campaigner Ellie Wilson has been charged in connection with domestic abuse-related offences and is due to appear in court in April. The 28-year-old has become a prominent campaigner against sexual violence, having waived her right to anonymity with her ex-boyfriend when her ex-boyfriend was convicted of raping her. Scotland's largest teaching union is calling for class sizes to be kept to a maximum of 20 and for class contact time to be capped at 20 hours per week. The union has launched its manifesto for the Scottish election in May. It says free school meals should be extended to all pupils and wants more staff and resources for pupils with additional support needs.
We believe with the size of budget that Scotland has and the wealth that there is in Scotland that could be taxed to a greater extent than it is at the moment, we believe that all of that is affordable for Scotland. We are part of the 6th richest country in the world, and we believe that children in Scotland can have amongst the best experiences of education internationally, given the wealth that this country has.
Now, as you sit down to enjoy your dinner tonight, it's unlikely you'll be thinking about how much protein is in each item on your plate. But for those living with the rare condition called PKU, it's vital not to overeat, or it'll cause a toxic chemical to be released into your brain. Many of them are asking for better access to a drug which could rapidly expand the menu available to them, as Louis Mickey has been finding out.
For Claire from Midlothian, options at mealtimes are limited. She has a condition called phenylketonuria, or PKU, and has to severely limit her protein intake.
I'm on 15 grams of protein a day, 60 grams of broccoli, and that should be about spot on. That is the portion of 1 gram of protein. So that's pasta it's manufactured specially for PKU people. This is 35 grams of sweet corn, which again is 1 exchange. So I'm not allowed cheese, obviously. So I have learned, as a child, I learned to crumple up quavers.
Diagnosed by the heel prick newborn screening, the rare inherited metabolic disorder is found in roughly 1 in every 10,000 babies. It means the body can't break down the amino acid, phenylalanine, found in protein foods. High levels can be toxic to the brain.
How little of a change, how big of a difference can that make?
The next day, I quite often will notice a change in my mood. It gets to that point and I get straight back onto diet because it's not worth experimenting with how far that would go. But the long-term harm is what scares PKU people the most. We don't know what it's actually doing to our brain.
On the red list, which is the food that's not allowed at all, with PKU, it includes meat, fish, eggs, cheese.
There are ways other than diet to manage PKU. A drug called sapropterin, which has been approved for use in Scotland since 2022. But Claire, like many others, has yet to be prescribed the treatment.
Some people, children, have been getting access, but there have even been problems with that. We've been going to Holyrood, to MSPs to say, look, could you please shine a light on this and help us understand what's going wrong.
Caroline from the charity NSPKU knows how effective sapropterin can be. Her 2 adult children, who live in England, have been taking it for a few years now.
This is the menu from my local pub. Everything that's underlined in red is the food that my kids can't eat when they're on the diet. All they could have at the pub, which is underlined in green, is olives or watercress salad. Now they have sapropterin, they've responded to it, and now we can go to the pub and they can eat anything.
The Scottish Government says it's down to individual health boards to consider implementation of new medicine. But with the campaign reaching Holyrood, ministers have asked the Chief Pharmaceutical Officer to explore what barriers might be preventing access to sapropterin.
That the Scottish Government remains deeply committed to improving outcomes and to making a real meaningful difference in the lives of everyone living with PKU.
More drugs which could work positively for even more people with PKU are expected in the UK in coming years. Claire hopes the medication and the potential benefits which can come with it aren't far away for her.
It's like the golden chalice, and I have been told that I am likely to respond to sapropterin. That was, I think, 4 years ago maybe I was told that. And It's just within reach, but I've never quite got there.
Until then, the menu is a much practised, albeit heavily restricted, diet. Lewis Mickey, STV News, Midlothian.
An Uber driver who sexually assaulted a drunk woman in his taxi has been jailed for 2 years. Dawit Tessima intimately touched the 19-year-old passenger after picking her up at a city centre nightclub in September 2023. The 46-year-old has also been put on the sex offenders register for 10 years. Detectives are investigating an attempted murder after an SUV was driven at a man in Glasgow. The 33-year-old man was taken to hospital following the incident in the Saracen Street area last night. Police have described it as a violent attack and are appealing for information. The latest addition to Scotland's ferry fleet has begun her maiden voyage home from Turkey. The MV Isle of Isla was built at a Turkish shipyard and handed over last week. Staff from the ferry operator Calmac are sailing the ship back to Scotland. The journey is expected to take a fortnight. The Transport Secretary Fiona Hislop says the vessel will support the people and economies of Isla and Jura. Meanwhile, islanders in Cumbria say they're concerned with the potential impact a 25% reduction in ferry services to and from the popular tourist spot could have in businesses. Calmac, who operates sailings from Largs, say whilst they understand concerns, it's no longer safe to operate the ferry on its current timetable. Ollie Dickinson has more.
Like most small business owners on Cumbria, Ross is banking on a bumper summer season when he opens his new cafe. But an altered ferry timetable, which will see journeys to and from the mainland cut back, has left him far from tickled pink.
The economy on Millport is a seasonal, fragile economy, and this will have a major detrimental effect on the island. There's two major external factors here. One is the weather you can't do anything about, and the second one is the ferries, and we are ultimately at their mercy. So if they can't run to capacity, then we suffer, and ultimately that will filter down to us not being able to offer as many jobs on the island, which will have a major impact to the island's economy.
Currently, the ferry between Largs and Cumbria sails 4 times an hour. But at each end, a tight turnaround means foot passengers and cars are forced to leave and join the boat at the same time. Calmac say that is no longer considered safe after a number of near misses, some of which STV News understands could have had serious consequences.
We have until recently always had simultaneous operations between vehicles and pedestrians on slipways, and that is simply not a safe way of operating. So we need to change that, and to allow us to do that and to segregate effectively, we need to make some changes to the timetable. The frequency has dropped, but we are confident that we can meet the demand that we need to service.
The Community Council claim, though, it's not just businesses who will suffer, and that locals who need the Lifeline service could also face difficulties.
It's horrendous, it's terrifying for people to be able to go, not be able to go about their business, for healthcare, education, people travelling to work, people travelling onto Island to do business. It's a huge impact on the community, particularly over the summer period. And a 25% cut in the summer period is going to be hugely impactful to the community.
Calmac say they're confident they will continue to meet demand on the popular route. Islanders will hold a protest against the plans tomorrow. Changes to a Lifeline service proving anything but plain sailing. Ollie Dickinson, STV News, Cumbria.
And Rahman is standing by with the sport.
Standing by and ready to go, John.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith New Year Sale.
The producer told me to say that. Good evening. Celtic's new signing Tomas Chapanchara says he's ready to be step up if thrown in at the deep end for the top of the table clash against Hearts this weekend. The striker only sealed his loan move from Borussia Mönchengladbach yesterday. Meanwhile, Hearts hope to have this man in their squad for Sunday's showdown. Mark Leonard is in Edinburgh putting the finishing touches on his loan move from Birmingham City. Here's Ronnie Charters.
The towering figure of Tomas Chapanchara joins his new teammates as he begins life at Celtic. The striker may only have a couple of training sessions with the squad before Sunday's top-of-the-table clash, but he's ready to make his mark.
I had preparation in Germany
basically full January, so for me it's no problem to jump in. So I would say that I'm ready. Yeah, it's a massive club, so obviously it's a big pressure. But as I said, I feel ready, and we have some goal which we want to achieve. So we will follow it and we will go for it.
It's going to be very big. Yeah, no question about it. If we get beaten, it's a long way back for us. It's a bit of a trek at the minute. So we would go out to try and win the game if we can, and I think that it's not the end of the road, but 9 points would be a lot to claw back.
Meanwhile, Hearts are set to sign Mark Leonard on loan from Birmingham until the end of the season. The Gorgie side hope the midfielder, who was at Tynecastle as a youth player, can go straight into the squad for Sunday, a squad that'll be minus Cammy Devlin, Benny Beningame and Lawrence Shankland.
Whatever Hearts teams put out, we'll be ready for Celtic and we'll be ready to compete. So just as we've always been in, we're always probably seen as the underdog, even though we're top of the league. Last time out, maybe there was some you guys and some people out there, maybe the last time we played Celtic, we might have thought Hearts had a right good chance of winning it. We believe we can win the game on Sunday regardless who's fit and who's not.
McInnes men hold a 100% record against Celtic and Rangers so far this season and have the chance to open up a 9-point gap over Martin O'Neill's men.
The vast majority of fans, there's a huge trust on this team, huge trust in what we're doing. And when we've been underdog, whether that's underdog down to 10 men, we've answered up. Whether we've been underdog when going to Ibrox, Celtic Park or whatever, the team's answered up. It's a big game, we recognise it's a big game, and normally when there's a big game there we bring a big performance, and the Hearts fans have got a part to play in that.
Johnny Kenny is a doubt for the match on Sunday with a calf strain. Ronnie Charters, STV Sport.
Now, after watching his Rangers team secure their 7th straight win across all competitions last night, Danny Rule says it's important to keep their momentum going.
To keep the momentum, I think now 7 wins in a row, fantastic from the last 9 games, 6 clean sheets. That was the big message after the game. When we think on Sunday we can go with 99%, then we have not this chance. We need again 100% to win the next game.
News from Hibs, and Josh Mulligan has been ruled out for a number of weeks after suffering an ankle injury in the Scottish Cup defeat to Dunfermline at the weekend. Head coach David Gray says they don't know exactly how long the midfielder will be sidelined, but says the news is a blow. St Mirren boss Stephen Robinson says they failed in their bid to re-sign Toyosi Olasanya, admitting the Buddies couldn't compete financially with Aberdeen. Olasanya made the switch from Paisley to MLS side Houston Dynamo last year. After a short spell at Doncaster Rovers, the forward has moved to Pittodrie on loan until the end of the season.
I tried to get him back here. Unfortunately, we didn't have the funds to do that. But yeah, listen, we wish Toyosi all the best. He's a super boy, great kid. But it wasn't for the want of trying anyway. I want to strengthen every area of the pitch. I'd like to get Alex Scroggies back into the centre of defence again at some stage as well, but needs must at the minute, and we're on the lookout, of course.
Well, here are all of the weekend's Premiership games. St Mirren's clash against Dundee United at Tannadice tomorrow is subject to a 9:30 pitch inspection in the morning. After their big win over Hearts in the Scottish Cup last week, Falkirk host Hibernian. Bottom side Livingston travel to Aberdeen. Inform Motherwell are at home to Kilmarnock, and the 2 Sunday games kick off at 3 o'clock. To tennis, and Cameron Norrie admits he was overpowered by Alexander Zverev as he bowed out of the Australian Open. After losing the first set of his 3rd round match, Norrie levelled, taking the second set 6-4. But world number 3 Zverev upped his game, winning the next 2 sets to progress to the 4th round.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith New Year's Sale.
And after the Champions Cup matches, the United Rugby Championship returns this weekend. Edinburgh hosts South African side Bulls tonight, while Glasgow Warriors are away to Zebra tomorrow. That's all the sport for me tonight, folks. Have a great weekend. John.
And that was you raring to go, was it?
Yeah, it was me raring to go,
Excellent.
John.
Well, I'm glad to
roll on
glad
next
to
week.
OK, somebody else raring to go. We've got Sean here, and some places getting a lot of rain, Sean.
Yeah, well, remember yesterday we were talking about rain shadows, orographic rainfall. This is an absolute whopper. This is the sort of stuff that really excites me, because I can't wait to show you just the difference in rainfall. Now, orographic rainfall that that is rainfall that gets enhanced by hills. Now, just south of Loch Earn at Glenample, 147 millimetres of rain since the beginning of Wednesday. That's about 2.5 weeks worth of rain. Not far from Rest and Be Thankful, about 100 millimetres, but here comes the whopper. Remember, 147 south of Loch Earn. Irvine and Kilwinning hasn't even had a millimetre since Wednesday. Let's have a look.
Wet by the coast, with a high chance of sun and splashing. TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Well, we've got an almighty battle going on into next week between very cold air over Russia and Scandinavia. Now, a couple of days ago, if you'd asked me, I would have said the deep cold air was heading our way and we were really going into the freezer next week. However, this always tends to happen. We get big storm systems that come out of Canada and the US, and it messes the forecast up a bit, because then you get this battle between the stormy weather trying to come in from the Atlantic with its wind and rain, and then you've got the cold air over Scandinavia, and the two of them just start pushing each other back and forward. It's very difficult to figure out which one's going to win. However, at this stage, it does look as if it is going to be the wetter and slightly less cold air that comes in next week. But when we've got that cold air very close by, we just need to keep an eye on it, because it does give us the risk of snow, especially for higher ground next week. There could be quite a bit in some spots, but for the time being, it is rain. Although we have had a bit of snow over the Grampians over the last couple of days. Now, the good news, at least tomorrow, is the outbreaks of showery rain will move away eastwards. But if you're watching from Falkirk, Grangemouth, around Stirling and Kinross, well, here expect we will be closer to the weather front, so we'll still hang on to cloud and some showery outbreaks of rain. But for many western parts, a lot of dry, bright weather tomorrow. Your temperature's about 7 or 8 degrees Celsius. Hopefully not too bad a day to come tomorrow, and hopefully the same again on Sunday, although across Lights of Arran near sure the risk of some drizzle, drier and brighter in western parts, and pretty much the same into next week.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Orographic rain, Sean.
Orographic rain, every day's a school day.
It clearly is with you, yeah. Orographic rain. There we go. Thanks for watching. Have a great weekend. Good night.